What if I told you the greatest threat to Shedeur Sanders' NFL journey wasn't a torn ligament or a crowded quarterback room, but a fabricated narrative, a falsehood whispered into the ears of restless Colts fans, sparked by click-hungry fringe insiders, and now parroted like gospel by media gatekeepers who've never been comfortable with a young black man carrying himself like a corporate mogul in cleats? By now, you've likely heard the static, the swirling rumors that Shedeur is on his way out of Cleveland, that he's being dealt to the Indianapolis Colts to compete with a shattered Anthony Richardson and a fading Daniel Jones. They want you to believe Shedeur's a fourth-string afterthought, disposable, that this transcendent talent who surgically dismantled college defenses with poise and precision isn't even worth cultivating. But here's the truth they won't speak aloud. These whispers didn't originate in locker rooms or front offices. They were born in the gutters of the internet, fabricated by phony blogs and low-tier betting sites, dressed in flashy language and fed to lazy insiders, consumed by fans too distracted to discern real from rumor. This isn't just a bad take, it's a hit job. Shedeur Sanders isn't battling defenders, he's battling a rigged narrative. And every time he rises, they manufacture a new way to pull him down. First it was his swagger, then his lineage. Now, a bogus trade rumor. So today, we're not just discussing football, we're dissecting how this lie was weaponized, who gains from keeping Shedeur suppressed, and why this young man might just be the most dangerous quarterback in the entire NFL. Not because he's reckless, but because he's ready. And what's coming next might just flip this league upside down. This myth didn't originate from Adam Schefter. It didn't come from Ian Rappaport. It didn't even come from Berea. This lie crawled out of the back alleys of the internet, pieced together by fan blogs, speculative odds, and a desperate hunger for chaos. It began with a whisper from Jonathan Adams of BetUs, not ESPN, not NFL.com, but a gambling affiliate site. Adams floated a maybe. Maybe the Browns release Shedeur. Maybe he lands in Indy. And that's all it took. One ambiguous column, and the NFL echo chamber took care of the rest. Then came the absurdities. Blogs like Motorcycle Newsnet, yes, a motorcycle gossip site, suddenly pivoted into sports coverage, publishing ad-tier drivel with zero sources, no quotes, just baseless clickbait masked in pseudo-intellectual fluff. And from there, the wildfire spread. Let's not be naive. The media knew exactly what it was doing. Truth was never the goal. Engagement was. Shedeur's name plus Colts plus chaos equals clicks. This wasn't about informing, it was about distracting. And who better to target than a young, unapologetically confident black quarterback who's already become a lightning rod for projection? Because here's the unspoken truth. This rumor was never about football. It was about power, about controlling the storyline, creating doubt. If we don't challenge this smear in real time, the lie calcifies. The fiction becomes folklore. But while they manufactured drama, Shedeur did something they never anticipated. He grinded. While anonymous insiders played telephone with fake headlines, Shedeur Sanders was in the brutal Texas heat, doing what he's always done. Not curated content for Instagram, not gimmicky PR stunts, real work, grit, precision, sweat, equity. While the league sipped cocktails on private beaches and the media scrolled for gossip, Shedeur was at the Sanders Ranch, locked in with his wideouts, perfecting timing, chemistry, and trust. One of them, Gage Larvadain, an overlooked receiver who built real rhythm with Shedeur during rookie minicamp and OTA. This wasn't a photo op. It was preparation. It was leadership. It was what winning looks like in July. You think Joe Flacco is out there in backyard sessions with fringe receivers? You think Daniel Jones is flying across states to build rapport with third stringers? Be serious. Shedeur's out working every quarterback in that room before the pads are even unpacked. But that story, the one of discipline, leadership, and relentless grind, doesn't sell as easily. A black quarterback grinding in silence, that doesn't move headlines like trade rumors and locker room controversy. Because here's the playbook. Show up early and they call you arrogant. Stay late and you're a distraction. But Shedeur? He's been preparing for this moment his entire life. And while the media spun fiction, Shedeur was writing receipts. One's only real work can cash. Now we arrive at the root question. Why is there even trade talk at all? The answer is buried deep in the politics of Berea. Because this isn't about performance. It's about power. Let's drop the illusion. The Browns quarterback room isn't a meritocracy. It's a game of political chess. And right now, Shedeur Sanders isn't being treated like a quarterback. He's being treated like a threat. Not because he's underperforming, but because his mere presence disrupts the hierarchy. Look at the so-called depth chart. Betting odds on Polymar list Flacco at 50% to start. Kenny Pickett, the NFL's most uninspiring former first-rounder, sits at 22%. And Shedeur, the man outworking them both in silence, Dylan Gabriel, the raw, untested rookie with zero NFL film, holds a 16% chance to start. And Shedeur, dead last at 14%. That's how little the so-called experts value the most polished passer in the building. Let's be clear. This isn't about what Shedeur lacks. It's about what he threatens to become if given a real shot. This league has always been uneasy with a fifth-round black quarterback outshining their hand-picked first-round poster boys. It always has. That's why Gabriel, who's never faced an NFL snap, is somehow listed above Shedeur. That's why Kenny Pickett, a player who's been the personification of mediocrity since day one, is viewed as safe. And Flacco? Don't even get me started. The last time we saw him, he looked like a fossil, immobile, inaccurate, and one blindside hit away from retirement. Yet somehow, he's still got the keys. Make it make sense. The truth? Shedeur isn't trailing because of performance. He's trailing because of perception. The NFL doesn't quite know what to do with a quarterback who talks like a CEO, trains like a vet, and plays like a problem. So instead, they keep him hidden, buried on the depth chart until they figure out how to mute him altogether. But while Cleveland hesitates, Indianapolis is starving for authenticity. And that's where this story really ignites. Let's call it what it is. The Colts don't have a quarterback competition. They have a quarterback crisis. This isn't about development. It's about identity collapse. Start with Anthony Richardson. On paper, the physical gifts are absurd. He's a walking human highlight, a quarterback built in a lab. But here's the issue. What happens when the camera stops rolling? You're left with injuries, inconsistency, and a star who's never available when it matters. As camp nears, he's nursing yet another health setback. Colts fans won't say it aloud, but deep down, they know it. Anthony Richardson might be the dream they need to wake up from. Then there's Daniel Jones, fresh off a failed stint in New York. Let's stop sugarcoating it. He's not a redemption story. He's a placeholder, a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Safe, temporary, uninspiring. He doesn't shift momentum. He can barely move the chains, yet somehow he is QB1 in Indy. We all remember the infamous run. The one where he tripped over his own feet. That play was a metaphor for his career. And in the storm of quarterback confusion, Shedeur's name surfaces. Not because he belongs in this chaos, but because he might clarify it. A steady hand, a real quarterback. One who reads defenses with surgeon-like precision and doesn't need a 4.340 to stay relevant. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Why is Shedeur even being mentioned in the same breath as failed projects? Because when you're black, confident, and undeniably talented, the system will always try to humble you before you ever take a snap. And that brings us to the comparison the league doesn't want to acknowledge. Shedeur Sanders versus Anthony Richardson, they represent polar extremes of the quarterback spectrum. And that's why the media has been working overtime, not to elevate both, but to promote one while suppressing the other. This isn't about raw ability, it's about narrative control. Richardson is the prototype the NFL can't quit. Built like a linebacker, runs like a gazelle, jumps like an Olympian, he's a viral clip waiting to happen. But highlights don't win games, consistency does. And Richardson has never had it. He started just 13 games in college, and in the NFL, he spent more time on medical tables than under center, and now we're hearing he's fatigued. Not an insult, but a warning sign. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is everything Richardson isn't. Polished, poised, precise. He's not hurdling defenders or sprinting for 70-yard games. He's doing what actual quarterbacks do, dropping 15-yard outs on frozen ropes with pressure in his face. He doesn't seek flash, he commands respect. He doesn't perform, he executes. He doesn't just play quarterback, He embodies it. Share this with your fellow Browns diehards, and let's hit our milestone of 1,000 subscribers strong. Now let's get into it. If you've followed this franchise for any length of time, you know the Browns are never short on surprises, and this offseason is no exception. The Cleveland Browns, a team with a storied legacy and one of the most ferociously loyal fan bases in football, stand at yet another critical juncture. Rumblings are growing louder around the current roster makeup, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, which has been riding a wild wave of highs and lows. But what's truly captivating the attention of insiders is the brewing conflict between veteran leadership and the youth movement. And today, we're zeroing in on one story that could shape the Browns' defensive future in a massive way. We're talking about linebacker Jordan Hicks, a seasoned vet and proven performer when healthy, but whose time in Cleveland could be nearing its end. And I'll break down why. Setting the scene. The Browns have made it crystal clear they're building a team rooted in experience and emerging talent. They're looking for players who can contribute immediately, stay healthy, and grow into long-term cornerstones. Last season, the defense flashed brilliance but ultimately lacked consistency. Due to injuries, yes, but also a shortage of explosive, high-impact playmakers. And no position has been under more scrutiny than the linebackers. The heart and engine of any defense. Linebackers don't just make tackles, they set the tone, cover elite tight ends, plug the run lanes, and apply pressure on the QB. Cleveland's had dependable players in that room, but if they want to elevate under new defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, it's time to raise the bar. The Jordan Hicks dilemma. Jordan Hicks is a name Browns fans know well. A respected veteran with the reputation of a cerebral, high IQ tackler, Hicks has long been admired for his locker room presence and in-game instincts. When healthy, he's reliable, physical, and provides mentorship to the younger guys. But that key phrase, when healthy, continues to cast a shadow. Injuries have plagued Hicks throughout his career. And in an NFL landscape shifting towards speed, durability, and youth, that's becoming a red flag the Browns can no longer ignore. The next man up, according to analyst Damon Wolf, the Browns may soon part ways with Hicks, not due to a lack of skill, but because of pragmatic roster building. The franchise needs to evolve faster, stronger, younger, and that puts Hicks in a precarious position, especially with rookie linebacker Nathaniel Watson lighting up the field in camp. Watson has been turning heads with his athleticism, football IQ, and relentless motor. If he continues this trajectory during preseason, the coaching staff may have no choice but to hand him Hicks's snaps, or even his spot on the final 53-man roster. A harsh reality of the game. This is the brutal truth of NFL roster construction. Veteran presence alone doesn't guarantee longevity. While Hicks brings invaluable leadership, experience, and intangible grit, those attributes don't always outweigh the cost of unreliability due to injuries. Schwartz's defensive scheme demands versatility and high motor linebackers who can cover, blitz, and flow sideline to sideline. And that's exactly what this coaching staff is prioritizing as they look to rekindle the Browns' defensive identity, reminiscent of the punishing 1980s era or their resurgent 2010s defense. All right, let me pull you into something that's been simmering beneath the surface of the NFL. An undercurrent that began as a faint murmur but has since erupted into a full-blown roar. And at the very center of this growing storm, Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I'm not being dramatic when I say this. We may be witnessing the genesis of something monumental, something electrifying, something nobody anticipated. Yet, here it is unfolding before our very eyes. If you're anything like me, you've likely heard the rumblings, maybe a stray tweet, a passing radio segment, and perhaps you stumbled upon some leaked minicamp footage and thought, wait, what did I just see? But here's the thing, you felt it. There's a shift occurring, and it revolves around one name, Shedeur Sanders. Yes, that Shedeur Sanders, the rookie, the 5th-round selection. Deion Sanders' son, the very same prospect most people assumed would quietly sit on the sidelines, bide his time, learn the playbook, and maybe, just maybe, contend for a backup role someday. That was the script. That's what the so-called experts forecasted. That's what the depth chart projected. But Shedeur, he clearly missed that memo because what he's doing right now in Browns camp is rewriting the entire narrative. And I need you to fully grasp just how wild this really is. We're not talking about some rookie flashing in notepads drills. We're talking about a young quarterback who walked into one of the most congested QB rooms in the league, featuring names like Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and Dylan Gabriel, and somehow became the focal point of the offseason. If you're enjoying this, take a moment to hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now let's rewind. Let's go back to draft day. 5th round, late pick by quarterback standards. Most figured Shedeur was a developmental guy, maybe just a camp arm or a long-term project who'd ride the practice squad. That's the usual journey for day 3 QBs. It's an uphill battle. But Shedeur, he didn't walk in like a 5th-round pick. From the moment he stepped inside the facility, his presence was different. His intensity, his focus, his professionalism. And that's not just media hype. That's coming straight from inside the building. I've been listening, I've been connecting dots, and the word from Browns personnel is unanimous. Shedeur is doing things rookies simply don't do. One assistant coach said outright, he processes the playbook faster than any rookie I've ever worked with, period. Another said he sees it on the whiteboard, walks through it once, then executes it live like he's been doing it for years. That kind of mental acuity, that's rare. Especially for a rookie, especially for a day 3 pick. Raw athleticism is easy to scout, but that kind of cerebral processing that gets coaches' attention fast, that's how you rise up a depth chart. And speaking of that depth chart, let's talk about what actually happened at minicamp, because this was the turning point. A full-sped, high-stakes move-the-ball drill. Every snap matters, every read is scrutinized. Normally, this is a proving ground for the top 2 QBs while the rookies stand back and absorb. But this time, should have stepped in ahead of Dylan Gabriel. No warning, no explanation, no PR stunt. It was a calculated move by the coaching staff. They wanted to see what this kid could do under pressure, and he delivered, not just with composure, but with command. And that's where the discomfort begins. Richardson was hyped as a generational specimen before proving it. Shedeur broke records, dismantled defenses, and was treated like a reach the moment his name was called. One's been coddled, the other challenged at every turn. And still, Shedeur shows up. Still, he grinds. Still, he wins. The only way he knows how, by outworking everyone. So ask yourself, why does the league keep investing in broken bodies and unfinished projects while overlooking a quarterback who's NFL ready right now? Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a threat to opposing defenses. He's a threat to the system itself. And nobody revealed that truth more clearly than Cris Carter. Let's talk about what he said and what he really meant. When Cris Carter stepped behind the mic and claimed that Shedeur Sanders and his family had overplayed their hand, it wasn't just another hot take. It was a betrayal. A former player, a black man who should have known better, choosing to echo the language of gatekeepers instead of truth tellers. Let's be honest, Carter didn't come with analysis. He came with animosity. His words didn't stem from facts, they dripped with resentment. According to him, Shedeur wasn't special enough to influence where he got drafted. That's rich. Coming from someone who watched the NFL blackball Colin Kaepernick, dodge guaranteed contracts, and lie for decades about concussions. And now suddenly, he believes the NFL is too honorable to collude. The hypocrisy. The NFL has already admitted to collusion in court after the Deshaun Watson fallout. So when Carter says that kind of manipulation doesn't happen, he's not just misinformed, he's willfully misleading. But let's dig deeper. When he said him and his family, we all knew who he meant, Deion Sanders. A man targeted from day one for doing the unthinkable, empowering his sons, building a brand, refusing to kneel before the NFL's outdated hierarchy. Carter didn't just attack Shedeur's draft value. He attacked a legacy. He attacked black self-determination. Thank you guys. See you next video.